In the bustling city of Verona Hills, two wealthy families lived in luxury, unaware that their fates were intertwined. The Montagues and the Capulets were no longer feuding, their centuries-old rivalry forgotten. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. Romeo Montague and Juliet Capulet were reborn into these modern families, living lives of privilege and comfort. They attended the same prestigious school, frequented the same elite social circles, and their paths crossed once more. This time, their love blossomed quickly, a connection so deep it felt like they had known each other for lifetimes. They spent their days laughing, exploring the city, and dreaming of a future together. Their love was powerful, an undeniable force that drew them closer with each passing day. But beneath the surface, Romeo harbored a secret, a darkness that threatened to tear them apart. Romeo had been diagnosed with terminal cancer, a rare and aggressive form that left him with only a few months to live. He kept the news from Juliet, not wanting to burden her with the pain of his inevitable death. Instead, he made a plan, a heartbreaking challenge that he hoped would prepare her for a life without him. A few weeks before his condition worsened, Romeo took Juliet to their favorite spot, a secluded park with a view of the city skyline. As they sat together, watching the sun dip below the horizon, he turned to her, his eyes filled with a mixture of love and sorrow. "Juliet," he began, his voice steady despite the turmoil within him, "I want us to do something." "A challenge." Juliet looked at him curiously. "What kind of challenge?" "For 2 weeks, we won't speak to each other. No calls, no texts, nothing. I want us to see if our love can withstand the silence, to see if we can find strength on our own." Juliet was taken aback. The idea seemed strange, but she trusted Romeo completely. "If that's what you want, I'll do it," she agreed, though her heart ached at the thought of being apart from him. Romeo smiled, relieved that she had agreed. He knew that these 2 weeks would be the hardest of his life, but he also knew it was the only way to protect her from the pain that was to come. The days passed slowly for Juliet. She missed Romeo terribly, but she honored their agreement, counting down the days until they could be together again. She spent her time writing letters she planned to give him, pouring out her love and anticipation for their reunion. Finally, the 2 weeks were up. Juliet hurried to their park, her heart racing with excitement. She waited on the bench where they always met, her eyes scanning the crowd for any sign of Romeo. The minutes turned into hours, and as the sun began to set, a sense of unease crept over her. Unable to bear the waiting any longer, Juliet decided to go to Romeo's house. As she approached the grand estate, she noticed it was eerily quiet. The gate was locked, and there were no lights on inside. A sinking feeling settled in her stomach as she walked up to a neighbor's house. "Excuse me," she said, her voice trembling. "Do you know where the Montagues are? I was supposed to meet Romeo, but no one's home." The neighbor's face fell, her eyes filling with pity. "Oh, my dear, you haven't heard. Romeo passed away a few days ago. The family is at his funeral right now." Juliet's world shattered. Her knees gave way, and she clutched the wall for support as the neighbor's words echoed in her mind. Romeo was gone. He had left her in silence, alone and unaware of the battle he had been fighting. Without another word, Juliet ran. She ran as fast as she could to the funeral home, tears blurring her vision. When she arrived, the service was nearly over. She pushed through the crowd, her breath coming in ragged gasps, until she reached the casket. There he was, her Romeo, lying peacefully in the casket, his face pale but serene. He looked almost as if he were sleeping, a small, wistful smile on his lips. On his chest rested a single letter, addressed to Juliet. With trembling hands, Juliet took the letter and opened it, her heart breaking with every word she read. "My dearest Juliet. You did it, my love. You've proven that you can live without me, even if only for 2 weeks. I'm sorry I didn't tell you about my illness, I couldn't bear to see you suffer. I wanted to give you a chance to find your own strength, to show you that you are strong enough to carry on, even when I'm gone. Please, don't mourn for me. Live your life, find happiness, and remember that I will always love you, in this life and the next. Forever yours. Romeo. Juliet clutched the letter to her chest, her tears falling onto the paper. She felt as though her heart had been ripped from her chest, leaving a gaping, empty void. How could she live without him? How could he have left her without a chance to say goodbye? Unable to bear the pain, Juliet made a decision. She couldn't live in a world where Romeo no longer existed. That night, she returned to the park where they had shared their last moments together. The city lights twinkled in the distance, but she felt nothing but darkness inside. As the stars appeared in the night sky, Juliet took the same pills that had been prescribed to Romeo to ease his suffering. She lay down on the bench where they had spent so many hours together, the letter still clutched in her hand. She closed her eyes, imagining Romeo's arms around her, his voice whispering in her ear. And as the darkness took her, Juliet smiled, knowing that in death, she would be reunited with her one true love. The next morning, the sun rose over Verona Hills, casting its golden light on the empty park bench. Juliet was gone, her spirit finally at peace, reunited with Romeo in a place where their love could never be torn apart again.